Top focus right now is one of the 4 new castes that have been created by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his government. I'm talking about women right now, and what is it that was set for 50% of the population in the interim budget. The finance minister took a look at what the government has done for women, and she's also listed important milestones. She stated that the empowerment of women through entrepreneurship, ease of living and dignity for them has gained momentum in the past 10 years. She then also spoke of how the centre has given 30 crore Murra Yojana loans to women entrepreneurs. Besides that, the government has said that 83 lakh self-help groups with 9 crore women have transformed the rural socio-economic landscape and empowered women across India. She's also promised that the government will be encouraging vaccination for girls between the age group of 9 to 14 years for the prevention of cervical cancer. The government has also promised that various schemes for maternal and child care will be brought under one comprehensive program for synergy in implementation. Let's quickly go across to our guests. I have with me Sumitra Goenka, political analyst, Mithali Nikor, senior economist, Ruby Singh Ahuja, senior partner at Karanjawala & Co, and Sharmishta Ghosh, developmentalist and economist and director at BRICS CCI. Let me begin this conversation, if I may, with Sumitra Goenka. Sumitra Goenka, when the government today talks about empowerment of women, how do we now see that translating into an everyday reality? Where exactly are we being able to see that on a day-to-day basis, the fact that women in India are in fact being empowered?
Okay, so Devika, good evening. I think when this government started, presenting their first budgets, from there itself, we have seen how they focused on those services which were aimed towards upliftment of women. There were some long pending things like a simple house, so PM Awas Yojana, then DBT, like direct benefit transfer into the accounts, was very essential, because earlier governments had themselves admitted that 85% of the funds which were transferred to people were lost somewhere in the picture before it actually reached the last mile. But financial inclusion is very important, and financial inclusion was not there. So Jandan accounts were opened, and today we know that around 54% of all the Jandan accounts are owned by women, and they are the beneficiaries of several schemes, and the amount directly goes into their bank account. This is a very important empowerment and financial inclusion process. Secondly, women were, given toilets for the dignity of the women. Then
Right.
the Har Ghar Jal Yojana, which was there. So these were some of the things which were aimed towards women. We see that PM Awas Yojana also, 74% of the beneficiaries were women, either directly in their own name or having joint accounts. So Nari Shakti, empowerment of women, all these things, and Nari to Narayani. These were some of the important things which were quoted in budgets as well. This budget also is a continuation of the same, I believe, because the government has clearly indicated that they will be fueling women entrepreneurship. They will be taking ahead these Lakpati schemes, Lakpati Didi schemes, to
Right.
3 crore women who are in the self-help groups. And today 9 crore plus women are enrolled in the self-help groups who operate drones, or they have animal husbandry or agri-related self-employments while working through the self-help groups. So I think this is a continuation of the activities which Modi government sincerely thought would help women, be it the Ujjwala scheme or the toilets in every house, or the educational schemes or entrepreneurial skills, like you talked about Mudra loans which were given. And another very important thing is the MSME sector, where again there are many women who are from even the services sector who are working in the MSME area. So I think all these schemes have been introduced in the budget, and this interim budget also is a continuation of the same. And I hope that the main budget, which will come after the elections in July or so, will give more emphasis to women's schemes again.
Right, absolutely. I'll come to you in just a moment, we have some more guests who are joining us, but I'll go to them in just a moment. Mr. Suresh Kumar Singhal and Mr. Jaikar Singh also joining us on the broadcast. I'm going to request you to just stay on with us if you can, because I'd like to quickly get in a perspective from Ruby Singh Ahuja as well, senior partner at Karanjawal and Co, joining us on the broadcast. Ruby ji, I'm sure your journey towards becoming a senior partner at a legal firm, do you feel that your journey would be very different from what the next generation of women will be experiencing?
Well, certainly I do believe that. And especially I think it's not the difference of a journey of women of my age compared to the next generation. In cities is one part of the story, but I think the real development which is happening in the rural sector, those women who need this empowerment the most. And as Sumitra ji said that, there are various schemes like providing toilets or giving them a house. Those are very welcome schemes. But the most important scheme I personally feel for the uplifting of women is the power of purse. Every government must recognize that the power of purse and financial independence for women is most important. And I think the way now these mudra loans are given to women and women entrepreneurship is being recognized is a big thing, especially for a country where employment is an issue. We'll have to accept that. So if you can give women some training, if you can give them vocational training where they can stand on their own feet, right. I think that is what the next generation is enjoying. And I also feel that we'll also have to remember that every policy of the government may not be women-centric, but at times it does help women more. Today, what our FM has announced that tourism sector will get boost. I personally feel this is very great for women. Tourism means better. A hospitality sector will boost, and hospitality sector does employ women more, which is a fact. So I think we don't have to see every policy of the government, gender-centric, because there are certain policies which may not be targeted towards women, but they do help women. So I think for generations and women who are in villages, for them it is very, very helpful because they will get a lot of, financial power, which is very important for them. Because financial power also gives us a space in the society, which is very important. It comes without financial power.
Okay, Mithali Nikore, bringing you into the conversation here. When we talk about financial power and the fact that an X amount of mudra loans have been given out to women, when we talk about the fact that women today are either owners or co-owners of the PM Awas Yojana homes, when we talk about 33% reservation for women in the parliament, how exactly do you feel that in the next decade we now need to harness the Nari Shakti, which the government has in a way created a base for, let's say in the past decade or so?
Absolutely, absolutely, Divya. I mean, think about it where, we all have started our journeys on these broadcasts together. And like 6-7 years ago, all of us were advocating and we were talking about gender budgets, which were sitting between 3 to 4% of the total expenditure, which was sitting at about 0.5% of the GDP. And we were lamenting about missed opportunities, just 7-8 years ago, we were discussing it in that tone. And over this last decade, we have seen such a huge shift where from being relegated to just one part of the budget, today, women empowerment, women-led development, Nari Shakti is one of the core pillars of the budget. So I think that itself is such a huge journey. And it's not just about the budget, right? Clearly, the finance minister very clearly said women's workforce participation is a key priority for the government. And there are many schemes that have been launched in just the last year for improving women's economic participation. Just last week, in fact, I was speaking at one of the ministry events where we launched a scheme called the Palna scheme. And in the Palna scheme, national guidelines have been released to set up creches across the country. What are the services that should be provided at a creche? What are the minimum operating standards have been devised? Government support is being given for setting up these Palna creches at Anganwadi centers across the country. Now, this is essential, right? Because it's not that everybody cannot afford childcare. So to bring women into the workforce, there's a concerted effort, there's a budgetary effort, and there's a policy effort, and those are working together today.
Okay, all right. I'll come to you in just a moment. Mr. Suresh Kumar Singhal, Senior Vice President of FTCCI, also with us on the broadcast. Mr. Singhal, just to begin with, I'd like to understand your assessment of the interim budget.
Yeah. Namaskar, madam. See, it is a fantastic budget, excellent budget. It's a progressive budget. And though it is an interim budget, I tell you, the policy of the government is for not a small period. It is for a longer period of 50 years they have brought the policy. And you know, the physical deficit which we are talking about, it is going to be 5.1% of the GDP. And you know that when the physical deficit is low, then your inflation will be under control. And people will have lot of money in their hand. And moreover, they have the Madam Sitharaman has already said that they are going to build 20 million rural houses, and they are focusing on already infrastructure, roads, rails, and airports, whatnot. So much development is there in our country, and which creates the capital expenditure is used. They are creating the wealth, and when they are creating the wealth, it doesn't only create wealth. The jobs will be created when you construct any airport or roads or any buildings, anything. They require people for that, and jobs creation is very high now. It is not that only government jobs are created. Government jobs are there, they are limited. But jobs can be created by this kind of development. Like, infrastructure when you create houses, building, and Swachh Bharat when you are going for toilets. And everywhere jobs are created. So the opposition version that the jobs are not given by this government is fake. It's all wrong. So I am telling, this budget is very good, and they have created 1 lakh crore corpus fund for financial and refinancing the banks and financial institutions, where industry will grow without rate of interest. No interest will be charged, free of interest. They have created that corpus fund of 1 lakh crore. So right. This is not a small amount.
Right, absolutely. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast, with your assessment of the budget. I'm going to quickly get in a word from Jaikar Singh as well, who's director at Symphony Resorts, which is a chain of luxury hotels located in the Andaman Nicobar Islands. Mr. Singh, you must have, of course, heard what the finance minister had to say about giving now undivided attention towards developing an economy, a sustainable economy, especially in our islands. What really do you think is the way forward as far as that particular goal is concerned?
So the approach towards tourism has been very practical and very thoughtful, which has got a lot of excitement and motivation for everyone in the tourism industry. And focusing towards sustainable tourism, definitely there have been a lot of initiatives that are being taken towards sustainable tourism in terms of permissions, licenses, etc. And also the budget seems great, which has focused a lot towards infrastructure, youth, technology and innovation, which all of them coming together have a lot of impact on sustainable tourism and sustainable ways of developing. With such a huge spend on infrastructure that everyone's been talking about, we definitely see a huge surge in employment and definitely impacting the middle class and getting domestic tourism even at a better pace. It's great that a government has identified and facilitated branding and marketing. So this aggressive approach, and by identifying our iconic tourist destinations mainly targeted more towards religious and leisure, being Ayodhya and islands like Lakshadweep, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, where we see Andaman and Nicobar Islands is way ahead of it its time in terms of being a developed tourist destination. Definitely a lot more to come. To add further, our Honorable Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman ji also has spoken about projects for port connectivity. So when they talk about port connectivity, sitting in the Andaman Islands, we see the transshipment port already being developed and built. The passing of a new greenfield project in Port Blair, as well as Lakshadweep. We see a new terminal coming up in Swaraj Deep Island, and also seaplane terminals in islands like Swaraj Deep, Shahid Dweep, and Long Island.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so definitely. So such magnanimous projects will definitely help us boost.
Okay, all right, Mr. Jaikar Singh, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast with your thoughts and perspective on this particular interim budget. I'm going to go back across to Sharmishta Ghosh, also with us on the broadcast. Sharmishta Ghosh, will we now somewhere be able to tap into a push that the government has given towards mobilization of women? So like I said, that they've somewhere set the ground running where you have your mudra loans, so you can start your own businesses, you become owners of the house, so your family takes you more seriously, you get that stature within your household as well, that listen, I'm the owner of this particular house. And there are several other schemes that we've been discussing as well. Do you feel that somewhere we can now actually tap into women contributing more aggressively towards the economy? Not that we haven't been, but I'm saying in terms of coming into the fore, having some clear data, solid statistics backing the contribution of women. Are we there now?
So good evening, everyone, and it has been an exciting day because it's raining in Delhi as well, so it's gone colder. But this is an interim budget, and it spoke about a government which is very confident about the results that they have been delivering. So we saw no softs, although it's an interim budget, a budget just before an election, which I personally liked a lot. And when you saw, it was clearly addressed. The focus group of 4 had poor, women, youth, and tribes. So I think the ground is set. It's come in the headline. It's in the piece that kind of takes the lead, that it will be a women-centric year. Now, I also think if we go back a little, for the first time, we have reservation in the parliament for women, right? This is something we have all been saying for such a long time. Every Women's Day, everywhere we go, we do our, our summits, etc. And we always say that we need more policy makers. We need more policy makers. I think when you say that have we hit the ground running, it's not by a mudra loan or the financial inclusion. That's all there. But I really think that the great initiative, the groundbreaking initiative that the government brought in is reservation of women in policy making, because it starts from there. Once that is done, then I'm very sure that the empowerment will keep on happening. It will not be a budgetary thing, it will be a developmental thing throughout the year. So today they are quantifying that, I love this term, the Lakpati Didi term. It's an amazing term to have. Now today they are quantifying 1 crore women have been benefited, 3 crore more in this much amount of time, 9 crore people have already. I think this is just statistic, but what major policy shift has happened at the parliament. When there is a collective strength coming from the top, and it is a top to bottom approach, this will happen because it has to happen. What else will 33% of women do in policy making? That too over the coming 15 years, right? So I think that tone is set from there. And what we are seeing are the ripples, and it will keep on improving with every year to come. And, as Ruby ji mentioned, you don't have to have a women-centric only policy to benefit women. Women can be benefited from every policy. Now, in this budget for the first time, I'm very happy about it. The government also spoke about mid-income, middle class housing. We have always been talking about housing for the poorest of the poor. But the middle class of the country, in a huge country like ours with the largest population, the middle class is the mover and shaker of the country. They are the economy builders. We are the balance sheet makers, right? So, and housing remains a big part of the economy always. If there is some extra help given to that, right? If you can have a house with the help of the government, that'll empower the entire family as a whole, and it automatically empowers the women, because in economics there's a very common thing that we say, that women are the balance sheet makers, men are the profit and loss makers, right? So if you give them some kind of stability, right, in terms of the basic necessities of life, then
Right.
women's participation in the workforce will automatically go higher. Correct. So one of the things that we have always been lacking is the participation of women in the workforce. At a 50% population, do we have 50% of workforce also as women? No, we don't even have 10% of workforce as women. So if that can be improved through all of this by another, let's say 5 or 7% in the coming 2 to 3 years, I think that is the result, that is the effect that we should be looking at.
Okay, very interesting.
And,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Mitali, I'm going to bring you back from the conversation, just taking Sharmishta's thought forward. The government has given some statistics as far as women in STEM are now concerned at 43%, and that, of course, in itself is a big change. But when we then talk about that 1 lakh crore corpus that is being set up for research and development, how do we then, Mitali, really push young girls to not shy away from taking on certain fields and sectors of life which are dominated by men, which continue to be dominated by men? But how do we then make that sort of a revolution happen, where more and more women entrepreneurs, young girls, are encouraged to tap into sectors like R&D, which is going to be a necessity in the years to come?
Absolutely. You hit the nail right on the head. And first of all, a big hi to Sharmishta. We are meeting after a long time.
Yeah, we are.
But just coming back to the point on STEM. So yesterday, actually, just out of interest, I was studying the data which has come out on the AISH report, the All India, higher secondary report, which the Ministry of Education puts out. Now, in this report, it's very interesting, the STEM number is 43%, but when you break it down between science and engineering, right, the gender gaps emerge.
Yes.
So women are doing science, postgraduates and PhDs. And in fact, Smriti Irani ji, in the event, that we had 2 days ago, she talked about the fact that the number of women PhDs in India has basically doubled in the last 5 years in science subjects. But science subjects are basically, the path is academia. You do a PhD and you go and you become a professor in a university or a college. Whereas if you are in engineering and technology, then your professional path is to work in an IT firm. Then when you work in the IT firm, you get posted somewhere remote, or you get posted somewhere abroad, then you move your entire family there. So it's a very completely different professional path to be academic. And that's where the gender differences are playing out, because only 30% of engineering graduates are women, whereas almost 50% of science graduates are women.
Very interesting. Yes, very interesting.
So this is where we need to work, that we need more and more women to also come into engineering, because, this R&D that we are talking about, the practical applications of it, they are a largely an engineering focused, sector. And also is to link sciences with engineering, because you don't want academia to operate in a vacuum. You want it to be linked with industry.
Yes.
And that's how, the gender diversity also plays a role.
Okay, I've run out of time, but I thank all of our panelists for joining us, and hopefully we'll be able to have more of these conversations in the future. Here's to hoping that this is not something that we just do once a year on the day of the budget, but because women have now been recognized by the government as one of the 4 new castes that India needs to focus on, one of the 4 pillars of New India, we will have more and more conversations about how women will contribute towards that 2047 vision of a Viksit Bharat.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.